I actually started occasionally making a suggestion, and they'd never, it never went anywhere. Kind of pissed me off a little bit.
At 71 years old, Hollywood legend, Ron Howard has built one of the most respected careers in entertainment, from his wholesome beginnings as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show to his acclaimed directing work on films like A Beautiful Mind, Apollo 13, and Cinderella Man. But behind his calm demeanor and professional reputation, rumors have swirled for years about the actors he allegedly couldn't stand working with. Recently, online chatter and viral videos have resurfaced under sensational titles like "Ron Howard names the 6 actors he hated the most," and fans are wondering, is there any truth to it? The idea of Ron Howard, one of Hollywood's most soft-spoken and kind-hearted figures, hating anyone feels hard to believe. Yet where there's smoke, people assume there must be fire. Did Ron Howard secretly have tension with big-name stars behind the camera? Were there clashes that Hollywood kept quiet about for decades? Or is this just another exaggerated rumor designed to shock fans and gain views? Today, we're uncovering the truth behind these viral claims, separating fact from fiction, and revealing what Ron Howard himself has said about the actors he's worked with throughout his incredible career. Because while he may have faced frustrations and creative conflicts, the real story is far more complex than simple hate. Let's dive into the truth behind the headlines. Starting with the years when Ron Howard's kindness was put to the test. Ron Howard's life in Hollywood began when most children were still learning to ride bicycles. As the freckle-faced Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show, he grew up under the bright lights of television, learning discipline, kindness, and the art of storytelling from industry greats. But what many fans don't realize is that behind Ron Howard's calm and humble personality lies a man who has endured years of quiet frustration, betrayal, and creative tension, the kind that would test even the most patient soul. By the time he joined Happy Days in the 1970s, Ron was already a seasoned actor with an unshakable reputation for professionalism. Playing Richie Cunningham, the wholesome all-American teenager, Howard quickly became the emotional heart of the show. But as Happy Days grew into a cultural phenomenon, something unexpected happened. The spotlight shifted. Henry Winkler's Fonzie character, originally intended as a minor supporting role, became the breakout star. Viewers loved Fonzie's charisma, catchphrases, and cool leather jacket attitude. Overnight, the series that had been centered around Richie became The Fonzie Show in everything but name. Howard later revealed that the sudden shift left him feeling sidelined and disrespected. He had always been humble about sharing the stage, but the treatment from studio executives stung deeply. "They stopped consulting me, stopped including me," he once explained. "It wasn't about Henry. He was a friend and a class act. But the way the network handled it changed everything." For the first time in his life, Howard saw how cold Hollywood could be. He had gone from being the golden boy of American television to feeling invisible on his own show. The decision-makers were chasing ratings, not relationships. And that harsh reality shaped the man he would become. A director who would later treat every actor on his set with dignity and respect, no matter how big or small their role. Still, the experience left scars. Howard admitted that the tension on set sometimes boiled over. He recalled moments when producers made creative choices that completely ignored his input or contradicted his understanding of the show's tone. "It wasn't hate," he said years later, "but it was disappointment. Deep disappointment." After Happy Days, Howard quietly stepped away from acting to focus on directing, a move that shocked many but freed him from the politics of stardom. His transition behind the camera wasn't easy. Hollywood wasn't eager to take a former sitcom star seriously as a filmmaker. But Ron had something that few others did: resilience and vision. When he finally got his chance with films like Night Shift and Splash, he proved his worth. Yet even as a director, challenges followed. On the set of Cocoon, he faced one of his toughest working relationships with actor Wilford Brimley. Brimley, known for his gruff personality and blunt honesty, often clashed with Howard's patient and collaborative approach. Wilford didn't like being told what to do, Howard admitted with a smile. but he taught me how to handle people who don't like being directed. Instead of holding grudges, Ron Howard learned from every difficult personality he encountered. To him, every clash was a lesson in leadership. He began to understand that the best directors weren't the loudest or most forceful. They were the ones who could navigate egos, balance emotions, and still create something extraordinary. Looking back, Howard never spoke with bitterness, even about those who wronged him. But he did admit that the Hollywood system could make anyone harden over time. "You learn who's genuine and who's not," he said. "You learn who respects the craft and who only cares about fame." For Ron Howard, the journey wasn't about hate. It was about survival in an industry that often eats its own. And though he rarely named names, those who knew him best understood. Behind the gentle smile of Hollywood's nicest man were memories of moments that tested his patience, his loyalty, and his heart. Behind Ron Howard's calm demeanor and easy smile lies a side that few people ever get to see. A man deeply passionate about his craft and unafraid to speak the truth when it comes to those who made his job harder than it had to be. Hollywood, after all, isn't all bright lights and friendly faces. For Ron, who transitioned from being America's favorite child star on The Andy Griffith Show to one of the most respected directors in Hollywood, the road wasn't always smooth. Along the way, he encountered egos, betrayal, and clashes that would test even his legendary patience. One of the first names he mentioned in his rare confession was an actor he once admired, someone he had grown up watching. Ron described him as brilliant but impossible. This actor, known for his method approach, constantly challenged Ron's authority on set during one of his early directing gigs. Every shot became a battle. He'd walk on set and question everything, from the lighting to the dialogue, Ron once said. It stopped being about the movie and turned into a test of endurance. Though Ron never mentioned the actor's name directly, many insiders speculate he was referring to a veteran star from the late 1970s who had a reputation for being combative. But it wasn't just the older generation that gave Ron trouble. The second person on his list was someone unexpected. A rising young actor from the 1990s who had skyrocketed to fame and thought he was untouchable. Ron, who was directing at the time, recalled how the young star's arrogance derailed production. He refused to take direction, Ron admitted. It was like he thought every scene was his audition for an award. This particular feud, according to close sources, nearly caused Ron to walk away from the film. The actor's constant improvisations, arguments with co-stars, and late arrivals infuriated the otherwise composed director. "It taught me that talent means nothing if you don't respect the process," he said. Then came the tension-filled collaboration with an actress who, on the surface, seemed perfect for the role. Professional, elegant, and seasoned. But behind the scenes, things were very different. Ron described her as the most difficult person he'd ever worked with. She questioned his creative choices, challenged his authority in front of the crew, and even tried to manipulate the script. It became personal, he admitted. It wasn't about the art anymore. For someone like Ron, who thrives on teamwork and respect, this experience left a lasting scar. It changed how he chose his casts in the years that followed. Interestingly, Ron never turned these rivalries into public feuds. Unlike many directors who lash out or retaliate through the press, he preferred to process the pain privately. Yet when asked years later about the most stressful moments of his career, he didn't shy away from saying, "There were a few people I'd never work with again, not because of talent, but because of who they were when the cameras stopped rolling." Hollywood insiders have often praised Ron's ability to turn chaos into creativity. But even the most patient man has his limits. His experience with these challenging actors not only hardened him, but also refined his directorial style. He learned to lead with quiet authority, choosing collaboration over confrontation, but always prepared to draw the line when needed. By the time the 2000s rolled around, Ron Howard was no longer the innocent boy from Mayberry or the eager young director trying to prove himself. He had become a cinematic heavyweight, respected and feared in equal measure. Yet the rivalries of his past stayed with him. Each difficult collaboration became a lesson. A reminder that even in an industry built on illusion, authenticity and respect still mattered most. When Ron Howard finally revealed the second name on his list of actors he hated working with, Hollywood insiders couldn't believe it. The man he spoke of wasn't some temperamental diva or a fading star past his prime. It was someone Ron had once called a friend. Their collaboration had been highly anticipated, their chemistry on paper looked perfect, and the studio expected a masterpiece. But what unfolded behind the scenes turned into one of the most bitter professional experiences of Ron's entire career. The project began with mutual respect. Ron admired the actor's charisma and raw energy, while the actor praised Ron's calm, precise directing style. But as filming progressed, cracks began to appear. The star, who was at the height of his fame, began to challenge Ron's authority in subtle but destructive ways. He'd rewrite his lines, ignore stage directions, and even instruct the camera crew on how to frame his shots. At first I thought it was passion, Ron once reflected. But soon I realized it was ego. For Ron, a director known for his patience and professionalism, it was a wake-up call. "I've worked with passionate actors before," he said, "but this was different. This was someone trying to take over the entire film." Crew members recalled tense silences on set, days where shooting would stall because of creative disagreements, and moments when Ron would walk away from the monitor just to collect himself. "You could see the disappointment in his eyes," one assistant director remembered. He had trusted this actor, and that trust was broken. The turning point came during a critical scene. The actor, determined to improve the script, refused to deliver his dialogue as written. Ron calmly reminded him that the line was essential to the story's emotional arc. Instead of listening, the actor snapped, "Maybe the story needs to change." That moment marked the end of whatever friendship they had left. Ron didn't argue. He simply called for a break and quietly instructed the editor to prepare for major reshoots without the actor's input. Despite the chaos, Ron's professionalism never wavered. He completed the film, salvaged what he could, and turned it into a box office success. But privately, he was devastated. "It wasn't about money or fame," he said years later. "It was about respect. When you lose that, everything else falls apart." Insiders speculate that this rift permanently ended their working relationship, even though the two occasionally crossed paths at Hollywood events. Whenever asked about it, Ron would only smile and say, "Some lessons are expensive, but they're worth it." The revelation that Ron Howard, one of Hollywood's most diplomatic and universally liked figures, had such a painful experience with someone he once admired, stunned the entertainment world. Many tried to guess the identity of the mystery actor, but Ron has never confirmed the name. Some claim it was a major 1990s box office star known for his temper. Others believe it was a critically acclaimed performer who struggled with substance issues at the time. Whatever the truth, Ron's silence only deepened the intrigue. Yet what makes this story even more striking is how Ron responded afterward. Rather than grow bitter, he used the experience to strengthen his creative independence. He began producing and directing films under stricter terms, ensuring he had final say on casting and editing. "I realized that creative control isn't just about ego," he explained. "It's about protecting the integrity of the story." That philosophy would define his later career. From A Beautiful Mind to Rush, each film became a testament to his belief that cinema works best when built on trust and humility. The actor who betrayed that trust may have been talented, but Ron proved something far greater, that respect and teamwork will always outlast fame. And though the world may never know the full truth behind the feud, one thing is certain: the experience changed Ron Howard forever. It was the moment he stopped being the agreeable director everyone could walk over and became the quietly powerful force Hollywood could never ignore again. As Ron Howard entered his 70s, the once wide-eyed child actor turned Hollywood heavyweight began to look at his journey with a deeper sense of clarity. After decades of highs and lows, betrayals and triumphs, Ron reached a point in life where resentment had little place left to grow. "When you spend your life telling stories," he once said, "you eventually realize your own story is the one that teaches you the most. By the time he turned 71, Ron had already secured his place among Hollywood's elite. 2 Academy Awards, a long list of box office successes, and an unblemished reputation for integrity made him one of the few truly respected figures in an industry built on ego. But beneath the accolades was a man who had endured more than the public ever knew. Difficult actors, power struggles, and the constant pressure to prove that a child star could grow into a serious filmmaker. In interviews, Ron often reflected on how those challenges shaped his philosophy. "I learned that some people come into your life to inspire you and others to test you," he said. "Both are teachers. You just have to decide what lesson to take." His calm demeanor wasn't a natural gift. It was something forged through disappointment and betrayal. He had worked with actors who had publicly mocked him, producers who doubted him, and critics who once dismissed his films as too safe. But in the end, Ron's work ethic silenced them all. What few realize is that behind Ron's success was a deep personal discipline rooted in gratitude. He credited his longevity not to fame or connections, but to the lessons he learned from those he clashed with. "Even the ones I didn't get along with, I owe them something," he admitted. "They taught me patience and how to lead without losing myself." As the years went on, Ron made peace with nearly everyone on his hate list. Those grudges, once sharp and painful, slowly dulled into distant memories. He reconnected with a few former co-stars at award shows and charity events, exchanging polite smiles and even laughs. "Time has a funny way of healing what words can't," he told a journalist in a 2023 interview. "When you look back, you realize how small some of those fights really were." But there was one exception. One name that still lingered in his thoughts. The actor from Chapter 3, the one who had publicly undermined him, remained a painful reminder of what could go wrong when trust is broken. Even then, Ron chose not to speak ill of him. Instead, he simply said, "I hope he found peace, too." That quiet grace became the defining mark of his later years. A calmness that could only come from someone who had truly learned to forgive. At home, Ron's focus shifted entirely toward his family. He often credited his wife, Cheryl, for grounding him throughout the chaos of fame. Married since 1975, their love story became a Hollywood rarity, a testament to loyalty and understanding in a business where both are in short supply. "She's been the anchor in every storm," he once said. "Without her, I don't think I would have survived this industry." Now, as Ron enjoys his 70s, he spends more time away from the cameras, mentoring young filmmakers and quietly producing meaningful projects. He no longer chases recognition. He creates out of passion. "Awards are nice," he told Variety, "but the real reward is seeing your work outlast you." So, what truly happened to Ron Howard at 71? It wasn't scandal or controversy, it was reflection. He had finally reached the stage of life where peace mattered more than pride. The grudges had faded, the feuds forgotten, and what remained was gratitude for the lessons, the mistakes, and even the pain. Ron Howard's story isn't one of hatred, but of transformation. The boy from the Andy Griffith Show who once stood in the shadow of giants became one of the giants himself, not through anger or arrogance, but through quiet endurance. And as he looks back now, the message is clear. Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most are the ones who teach you how to rise above it all.